Working for Eclipse-based, and I'm not the one who did the slides, and I'm not the one who is in the program. That's Steve, but unfortunately he feels very sick and he lost his voice. So I was told yesterday that I have to take over the presentation today, and I'm happy to do that because it's a really important topic, and I like this topic, and I'm trying to push, or I'm one of the people trying to push this topic forward in our own company, Eclipse-based. First, the question, what is long-term support? I'm not sure if you're familiar with long-term support. There are different views and different options. Maybe you've heard about this topic when you're looking into the Ubuntu community, into the Linux community. They have their own long-term support things going on. So what's long-term support in our case? We think that's an infrastructure that we provide and we are working with for maintaining old versions. That's one important piece of long-term support. The other thing is it's kind of a dating service where you can connect consumers of long-term support with providers of long-term support. In our case, those providers are possibly companies such as SAP or IBM or Eclipse-based. We are trying to act as a provider for long-term support. We are providing this as a service to our customers, to interested parties. On the other hand, there are companies that are consuming those things. They have contracts with us. So it's just a dating service between interested parties. All of them are interested in having services around long-term support. And then, after all, it's our way to safeguard invention or to help with old releases where you can fix bugs. That always happens all the time. But it's important to learn what it's not. We are not another release train. We are not yet doing simultaneous releases. That's not what you can compare to the LTS releases that Ubuntu ships every 2 years. And it's not a help desk. It's not that you can show up and write questions and we can answer them all the time. And unfortunately, it's not free. That's something that we all need to learn in the open source community, that things are not for free. They are open, they are transparent, but not free. Someone has to pay for it. Not free is a very good topic. There are some parties involved. First of all, if you're looking at this picture, there's this flow of money, and that's marked in green with the green arrows, and there's this flow of bits and pieces of the software. There's the user. Those users need some fixes implemented, and they are paying for those fixes. They are paying one of the members of LTS. Everyone can be a member there. The LTS member itself pays the Eclipse Foundation a certain amount of money with this membership fees to run the infrastructure to help the LTS member provide the services itself. They are providing an infrastructure. We'll talk about this a little bit later. And the LTS members, like we are creating fixes. We are using these infrastructures for our builds. We are using this infrastructure for our bookkeeping, for traceability, those things, and we provide those fixes in the end to the end user. Another term that's on the slide is the self-service provider. I think SAP is acting as a self-service provider. They are using the LTS infrastructure. They are paying membership fees, and they are providing their fixes themselves. That's the self-service provider. One thing to mention is that the amount of money and the contract between the user and the LTS member, that's free to negotiate. That's up to the member and the user. That's nothing that is being dictated by the LTS working group. Now I think I'm ready for the next slide. Who needs fixes in old code? So there are several scenarios that we think we need to address. There are some commercial projects. You have delivered your product and that's built up on Eclipse, and you need to provide support services for this product that you are selling. In this case, you have a commercial product and your own customers expect you to provide fixes for this particular product over a certain period of time. That's one of your of the possibilities. The other option could be that you are building software yourself and you're using the development tools based on Eclipse, and you need fixes for these development tools that are using yourself. That's the second topic here on the slide. And the last one is that you're really locked into a specific version of Eclipse or of a bundle because of other constraints. Maybe there are some third-party libraries that require a certain version of an Eclipse bundle, and it's just not possible to provide an update to this single bundle. I need something to drink, sorry.
Careful, you could lose your voice.
Yeah, I know that. This will help, sorry. Other things that can happen, there can be some security bugs. You've heard about pool, about shell shock, about heartbleed, all those security-related things that happen all the time and that affect your server infrastructure, for instance. Or a new operating system version comes out, Windows, whatever, or a new Mac version, and you need to make sure that your old product is still running on this new version. Or a new hardware platform arrives in the embedded or IoT world. Standards can shift and change over time, and not at last, there are some government requirements that can change over time. Usually, or every developer has this experience, errors or bugs just happen, and you find them out at some point in time, over time. So sooner or later you will run into problems with your software that you delivered. And even if you think you have 100% test coverage, there will be some customers of yourself who find bugs in your software that you delivered. In that case, you need to act somehow. You have to provide them some services, you have to provide them updates. Yeah, I think we can move to the next slide. So what are your options, traditional options? You're consuming some bits from open source software. Option one is, I want to influence this open software. I'm putting committers on this project. I have to have developers with a knowledge, with a very, very deep knowledge, who participate in this project. That's one possibility. Just do it yourself. The next one is, since it's open source software, you can clone the software repositories from the internet, make a clone from that, make a branch, change those fixes, and do this only for you. Again, in this case, you need the knowledge of this project, and you need to invest a lot of money. You need to build expertise, which is not probably the expertise that you need to for your own product. Another option is, since all bugs are fixed in newer versions, you always use the latest and greatest. But even that's dangerous because we introduce from time to time new errors and bugs. Or the last one, you cross fingers and hope that everything is stable. Go away. Try to hide somewhere. So in the end, you're running out of options. You need to find a solution for this. As we all know, Eclipse developers usually try or tend to fix bugs only in the latest release. And maybe you have heard this, but we changed the naming of the simultaneous release a little bit to reflect what's really inside of the simultaneous release. In past years, we were providing, for instance, a Kepler release in June, and then a first service release in autumn, and in the next spring, a service release 2. These were service releases, or meant to be service releases, where we only fix bugs. We don't introduce new functionality. It's only for bug fixing. But that has changed with Mars. With the Mars release, we release an update release, a Mars.1 in autumn, that contains new projects, that contains new versions, that may contain new functionality, and of course, for sure, it will contain new bugs. So the old system of having 2 service releases that are only there for fixing bugs, that's not there anymore. That makes it even more important to have something like LTS, where you can fix in older versions bugs like that. It depends on teams. Sometimes backports are done. Most of the times they are not done. And if you want to do this yourself, yeah, you're probably not so familiar with the code. You need to ensure that you don't introduce any regressions. And you need to perform the tests, and yeah, you just need to have a lot of know-how if you want to do this all for yourself. So option 1 is, if you don't want to do it, either you pay an expert, a company or someone else who is doing the service for you, or you can do it yourself. And both options are available with LTS. We, as a company, we are providing services for our customers, and we get paid. That's option 1. Someone asked us to take over this support, and we are doing this support for them. The other option is, that's chosen by some larger companies. They are doing this service for themselves. They are providing LTS service for themselves, and they are doing these things in-house. They are creating their own versions of Eclipse, of the Eclipse projects, but they can leverage the Eclipse LTS infrastructure for that reason. The other visible things, or yeah, what's being provided by the LTS working group and by the Eclipse Foundation for LTS. One thing, it's a marketplace. You all know the marketplace client, probably when you're looking for software and plugins and bundles. Then you can open the marketplace client, you can look for something like this, what you can install into your Eclipse. But there's always a section in the marketplace where you can look up long-term support providers, companies that are willing to provide support for certain Eclipse projects. So this marketplace aspect, connecting or bridging users to long-term support providers, that's one of those important aspects of LTS. The other one is the infrastructure that's being provided by the Eclipse Foundation to us. We will see the infrastructure in a little bit detail later. We have our own Garrett instance, we have our own Git repositories, we have our own build servers that we can use for creating bug fixes. Another new thing this year, it's being in production since a couple of weeks now. Every time we create something for customers or for everyone else, is now being signed with a special dedicated long-term support certificate. So you can always distinguish. If you open your Eclipse, you see all the bundles from eclipse.org that are in the simultaneous release. They are signed by the standard certificate of the Eclipse Foundation. And if you get a new version of a certain bundle, this bundle will be signed with a long-term support certificate. That makes it easy to find out which bundles are compiled from which source. Another very interesting new thing is maybe some of you are a member of another working group. There's a new option now. We changed our charter for that reason. If you're a member of another working group, such as Polarsys, and this working group pays a certain amount of money, these 30,000 US dollars every year, to the long-term support working group, then you're allowed to participate there. This kind of participation involves two things. This working group has a seat in the steering committee, so you can influence the future development of the LTS working group. And the other very, very important thing is you as a company are now able to use the whole LTS infrastructure like every other premium member too. So you get a new Garrett, you have instance, you have your own Git instance, you have your own build servers, you have the whole setup that allows you to create new versions of Eclipse. Now a case study. That's based on something that happened this year in our company. We have a very large medical application, and if you know this domain a little bit, if you know the hospitals, they are not running the latest and greatest software. But then Windows released the new Windows Server 2012, and some hospitals were moving to this new software. And we have the problem that the Eclipse version that we are using internally to build this application needs to be, for some reasons, very old. It's just, we cannot migrate, or it would just be too expensive to move that to the latest version. So there was an error with the operating system detection in OSGI. And it just didn't recognize that this is a Windows server. It just didn't start without error message, anything else. So what could we tell our customers? Stay on this old Windows version, Windows Server version. In a hospital, you're in a security critical environment. That's not an option. Migrate our tooling to Mars, where this bug has been fixed already. Not an option too, because they wanted a solution now, not in a few weeks. They needed this solution now. Or we can backport a solution to the Juno release that we were using internally in this application. Just exchange a few bundles inside the application and we are done. And that's what we did with LTS. We backported a few things to the Luna version and delivered this to our customer. So building our fix, we found out that this bug has been addressed in the Kepler release. Fine with us, perfect. There was a patch, even a patch available. I applied these patches I think we already can move to the next one. Yeah, the option in this, let me go back a second, step back a second. What were the options? Usually, if you're not, like us, a company heavily involved in LTS, you could go to the marketplace. You can find an LTS member who understands that code, who is willing. You can set up a contract and you can pay for them. Or you can self-serve as an LTS member. In our case, we could do this as a self-service provider. We felt comfortable with those code changes. We could do this ourselves, and we could control exactly which changes went into this update version. So what we did, we backported everything to Juno. In fact, we backported it for several other versions too. We had some other LTS members reviewing this change. IBM was so kind to review our changes. Then we pushed our changes into the LTS Git repository. And now this fix is available to all other LTS members, but only to them. The fix itself was really trivial, except that I changed the copyright dates. I just had to add a few more lines to one of those property files to make sure that the new Windows version can be recognized. That was really fast. We found out about this bug on April 22nd. And we could deliver an update to this version in just 3 days with going through the full test cycle, and our customers were happy.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Who was the LTS member? Eclipse-based?
Yeah, in that case. No, in this case, we could provide this as a self-service provider. Okay. Sometimes we have customers paying us for providing maintenance services for their own products. We don't have to do anything with their products. And in that case, it was another team in my own company that creates or wrote the product. So we could do this as a self-service provider. Okay. That makes it even a little bit faster. Yeah, the LTS Marketplace. If you're going to marketplace.eclipse.org, there's this little section where all the LTS members are listed, including the services that are providing. You can look up the projects. Maybe sometimes they reduce this to certain versions because we cannot provide services for all versions of the last 10 years. We only pick a few of the most important ones. But in the end, it's a marketplace, and you can go to an LTS member and as a customer, as a user of LTS, and you can negotiate whatever you want with them. So it's just a contract between the user and the self-service, the LTS member. Yeah, that shows the marketplace. Robert Bosch is already listing. And if you don't know what to do, we set up a web form for an initial contact. That's available on the LTS website under lts.eclipse.org. If you don't know where your problem belongs to, or if you want to talk to someone, or if you have suggestions, this is the place where you can reach out to all LTS members. And yeah. Which projects are currently in LTS? No, not every project is available from LTS right now. That's more or less driven by the companies that are providing services. that's based on our needs. If other projects from the simultaneous release need to be imported into LTS, that needs to be discussed. It's most of the time it's possible. Currently available with a nightly build, that's Equinox. The other important Eclipse projects like JDT and PDE, the Eclipse platform, and in our case, we are providing services for Eclipse Wrap, of course. So, two things can happen. Either you're in the role that you have a lot of knowledge and you're thinking about being an LTS provider in the future. You want to make some money based on your knowledge, you know how to fix bugs. Then you're in the first category. You can become a maintenance provider. You can join the LTS working group. Or you're someone who needs some support. Then you're in the second category. You need a safety net. Then you can interact with the LTS working group as well. Find some some maintenance providers in the marketplace. Current members or the steering committee members, there are listed some companies like such as CA, IBM, Innopract, SAP, and there's already a working group, Polasys working group, a member. So we hope that over the next couple of months or over time, more working groups will be member of the LTS steering committee, but those companies are right now the companies who are driving this forward.
Can you just explain a little bit more how another working group can be a steering committee member?
As a steering committee member, you're responsible for defining the future direction of this particular working group. Okay, and the other working group, such as Polasys, they are sending one representative to the steering committee.
Okay, so they basically collect their working group's objectives
right.
together and bring them
yeah.
to one person into this. Okay,
and if we are voting for something internally in the working group, they have one +1 or -1. Okay. There are some links and resources. We have our own web page. Everything, every question should be answered on lts.eclipse.org. And if not, or if you're not able to find the answer there, just try to contact us by writing a mail or by talking to us at conferences. We try to find an answer. Yeah. But I did this at EclipseCon North America, and that was a lot of fun. It's just a recommendation. I think it's really worth. And, yeah. And of course, we need some evaluation of the session. And thank you, and I'm open for any questions now or later or